recording. Then I'll come over here. Is there a microphone I'm supposed to talk into or anything?
They're all around the room.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, no, appreciate it. Oh, you're not leaving, are you? Oh, my goodness.
I can get the slide. Are you going to send it to Jackie?
Yeah.
So I will look at the drive and see what you're talking about.
No slides. I'm going to do, so essentially what I'm going to do is a Agentic AI example of a deviation investigation.
Oh, right. Awesome.
So that might be worth, I think I'll send the whole video. I think Jackie will be able to piece it
I will
together.
look at it. Yes.
Okay.
I have to go be somewhere at 4, so I need to leave.
All right. It's good to see you. Good luck on the job.
All right.
All right, so my name is Kyle Langham. I build agentic AI systems for biopharmaceutical manufacturing and development. I focus primarily on Maryland, but I will go up into Philly and down into North Carolina. But I don't know if you guys know this, but Maryland's actually one of the top 5 hubs for pharmaceuticals or biopharmaceuticals within the United States. Right, you have
270 corridor.
Yes, yeah, right along 270. I don't want to leave Baltimore out. Baltimore's got a little bit of action as well with, I think, Emergence there, and Syngene is there. But yeah, so we have like AstraZeneca right there in Gaithersburg and Frederick, major player within biopharmaceuticals. You got University of Maryland that produces a whole bunch of novel drugs, with gene therapy, cell therapy. So.
What are the other 4 states that are the biggest hard pharmaceuticals?
Yeah, so Philly's really big, Boston, San Francisco, and then North Carolina, Research Triangle, down in North Carolina. So Maryland's right there, and in recent years it's been really thriving on the cell therapy and gene therapy. And like you said, right up 270, if you go Rockville, Gaithersburg, all the way up in Frederick, it's a big employer for us. So I build agentic systems within specifically developing drugs and manufacturing drugs. And one of the problems I like to say I'm solving is, you've heard about AI being used for drug discovery and really decreasing the time it takes to discover a new protein, analyze it, get it into the clinic. That is only useful if we also increase the or decrease the bottlenecks further downstream. So after you discover a drug, you have to put it in the clinic. You got to start, injecting it into people, finding out does it work. That's the clinical side. And then even if it is successful, you have to develop and manufacture that drug, right? And so it does no good to have a lot of drugs that could come to market if we could manufacture them. We have to also leverage AI to increase our capacity at the manufacturing sites and within development. So what I'm going to actually show you is an example of agentic AI within a biopharmaceutical manufacturing site, just to kind of give you a taste of what's possible today. To do that, I think actually the one person who understood biopharma manufacturing just left. So I'm going to give you guys a quick overview of essentially running on my computer is basically like a dummy manufacturing site with all the same computer systems you would expect to find if you went if you went down the road to any of the manufacturing sites around here. You have a lab system called a LIMS. This is where your quality control test results are going to go into. You're going to have a QMS system, so this is what's capturing your quality, like your deviations, your change controls. I have a manufacturing called an MES system. This is like the plant floor system that's actually controlling the equipment. It'll typically have an ERP, so this is like how you plan your batches, your manufacturing batches. It's how you purchase your raw materials, that kind of stuff. This system, so essentially those all live as like SQL instances on my machine right now. In addition to that, I have Excel files that mimic process development and analytical development, because those teams typically prefer to work in Excel. And then finally, what I'll say is that's all structured data. Everything's in a nice table. The system can interact with unstructured data, so things like PDFs, documents, charts. And so I have over 100 unstructured documents that the system will interact with. And what I'm going to show you is a deviation investigation. So manufacturing biopharmaceuticals is very complex. You're actually growing living organisms, and then you need to essentially extract the protein that they're making. A lot of things can go wrong, and often do go wrong, and those deviations are a problem because now you have to do a whole lot of paper trail, a whole lot of analysis to determine whether or not that batch, that manufacturing batch, is safe to be released further down the value stream. That process involves gathering data from all these different systems. It involves getting a cross-functional team, so quality, manufacturing, your engineering team. You have to get them all in a room, and you're going to look at all of this mountains of data and start to do like a root cause analysis. What caused this deviation? And then, how do we prevent it from happening again? And can we now release this material? Do we feel safe or do we feel confident this material is safe? That all takes weeks and weeks. During that time, you're still manufacturing other batches, so that potential deviation, that potential error could still be now affecting further down the line. So definitely tightening that up. So what I'm going to show you is, instead of taking weeks, I'm going to do it here. It's going to take probably like 7 or 8 minutes. You can actually watch how this agentic system works, and it's going to essentially mimic what the humans would do over the course of those few weeks when they did a deviation investigation. So I'm going to come over here. If you recognize this is just Claude. This is Claude Desktop. It's no different than the Claude Desktop if you've downloaded, put it on your machine. I haven't done anything to it except for I've given it skills particular to manufacturing biopharmaceuticals, and I've connected those skills into that data system I was just demonstrating. So here you go. If I hit this slash sign, you can see here's the different skills I've created. I'm going to come here to deviation report. And the idea here is we've had some sort of deviation. It's called deviation 2026-0007. It has a specific deviation number. And so when I run this skill and give it a deviation number, it's actually going to go off on its own and start doing the things I told it that make up a deviation investigation. So that means going out and finding data. It's going to then analyze that data and figure out, okay, I'm going to start making some hypotheses of what maybe went wrong that caused this deviation. And then based on those hypotheses, it's going to start trying to find additional data that support or deny the hypothesis. And it's going to keep working through basically what's a root cause analysis until it gets the information all the information that it feels comfortable with. So what you actually now see happening is, this is just a visual interpretation of what the actual AI agent is doing. You can see it is looking up information. It's pinging our different data systems, asking for information, getting it back. Once it gets it back, it synthesizes that information and then makes a further decision. The way you can't really see it because it comes way down there, but there's this activity log down here. It goes off screen. It's actually giving you telling you what it's doing. So if I come back here to Claude, you're going to see it's kind of working through its steps here. Now again, a lot of the value of this is if you can take work that would typically take weeks and you can condense it into 10 minutes, it doesn't solve the problem in the sense that you still need some humans to review that work. Especially in a highly regulated system, a highly regulated industry, you're going to always want human review. When you look at everything on the outside of this diagram, this is all what's called deterministic systems. It's systems that if you give it an input, it'll give you the same output every single time. That's great because in a regulated environment, you can validate that, and then you can prove to the regulators, hey, every time we do this, every time we do X, it gives us back Y, and it's happy. The thing in the middle, the AI assistant or the agentic AI here, that's non-deterministic. You can never go to a regulator and say, hey, my AI agent said this, therefore it is this. What you need for that then is basically humans in the loop to review the work it did. So the goal is that of all this isn't to replace the humans. It's rather to take the burden of all those menial tasks of finding data, pulling it all in. A lot of that's wasted effort because not all the data is actually meaningful for the deviation, but you have to pull it because you need to check, basically check all your boxes. It's going to eliminate all that wasted work and give a work package that then the humans can take over and say, okay, what do we agree? What do we need to check further on the AI assistant? And then finally, you have somebody who reviews it and puts their name and signature on the analysis and says, I stand by this. Yep, so not all of the documents I've uploaded to Claude. Instead, think of it as I've told Claude where all these documents live, where all the data lives, and then I've told it how to access that, and then I've just given it the task of do a deviation investigation of this. So it goes and looks to see what information is out there, and then if it finds information, it synthesizes it, and then determines what to do next. I use Claude just because people are familiar. When I pull up that screen, they're like, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about, as opposed to giving them something like this, you're kind of maybe looking differently. You could build an agentic system not using Claude. You could build it using, ChatGPT or Gemini. You could also use one of the open models that, there's hundreds of open models that are out there. And the system still works. In fact, actually, I could easily just port over to a different model. It's just I would lose that Claude desktop user interface that everyone seems to like. I see that if we have, oh, nope, never mind. I was gonna say, I thought it was done, but it's not. It's still going through and finding all the information. But yeah, so the types of systems this works really well with is anything structured data-wise, so databases works very well with. Under the hood, it's writing SQL and actually querying these databases. It works really well with unstructured data, so documents. So if you've got a lot of Word documents, like at a manufacturing site, there's gonna be a lot of SOPs that are document form. You'll see sometimes it'll go out and look for a specific SOP. Excel spreadsheets, it works. That's great on the development side because development teams tend to prefer Excel. You can actually click here and see everything, its whole thought process. So you can see it's done quite a lot of work so far. It also does an audit trail on the back end, so that's really useful for if we got a whole bunch of garbage and we're like, well, why did the AI return all this garbage? You're gonna wanna go back and like kind of diagnose where the system went wrong and be able to improve the system that way. It's as well as it's super important for a regulated body that you have to be able to show an audit trail so they can say, you could show them exactly what work was done.
I have a question about the process here. So in the data and the processes here resulted in a deviation. And now there's a deviation because when you saw the product there was a deviation. Now you're doing the audit to go back.
Correct, yeah, so that's a good way to think of it. Let's say, in this case, because I already know the results since I've done this before, there was a quality control test. The product was made and then a QC test came out of spec. And so now you have a deviation open. Now, the question is like, why did that go out of spec? What was different between this specific batch and all the batches that were produced before?
What's an example of a deviation like in the field? I guess there's a lot of them, but like it results in a different protein, or it's sour, or what is it?
That's what a deviation should, a good investigation should answer that is the drug substance or the drug product that was manufactured at the end of the process, is it fit to be released later down, the manufacturing chain? It's not like more sour or something like that, but it would be, is the protein structure different? Is there additional toxins that are kind of surrounding the protein that might be dangerous that won't get eliminated further downstream, or that might produce an additional risk? All of that kind of goes into the deviation.
And who spots the deviation?
It usually either comes from the manufacturing floor. A manufacturing associate says, oh, the pump's not running. Pump's supposed to be running, it's not running. Well, that's a deviation because the process was supposed to do A, and if A wasn't happening, or it happens afterwards when you do your quality control checks and somebody says, hey, it failed this test. What's going on? Why did this fail this test?
So another way so I can also understand a little better is, for example, say they're making a type of ibuprofen, maybe a stronger one, right? And you have all the chemistry, whatever, to make it, and you do it, run the test, and for some reason it's either the chemical structure wasn't quite right, or maybe I don't know if it will come off. Say they already actually made the drug, and it's not as effective as it should have been as far as pain control or something.
Yeah.
And so now you're like, okay, something is not right. So wherever you got all the data from, you put it in Agentic AI,
Mhm.
and then it will find what is wrong. What was a particular deviation? What could have been the issue? Why
Yep.
the medication wasn't as effective?
That's a good way to say it, yep.
Okay.
And it's rare when you get to the point where it's in.
You already gave it. That's
Yeah,
why I
like
kinda
people,
said
it's on the
if it-
shelf.
If it does happen.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
why I said if.
It's because teams do all these deviations at the manufacturing site that you rarely get to a point where there's like a defect in the product when it
It's
gets to
already
the
there,
patient.
concealed.
Yeah, exactly, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Wow, this is thinking a little bit longer.
I actually have a quick question.
Sure.
So, say you work with pharmaceuticals in there, right?
Mhm.
Have there been any like big pharmaceutical companies that have been created to like work with Agentic AI?
Mhm. Yeah, it's still pretty new, but I would say, AstraZeneca, of course, is like the biggest leader in the space. They actually are so invested into AI that the AI team reports directly to the CEO. So it's not like embedded within the business, it's its own C-suite level. But basically, if you go, I would say probably 50% of the executives I talk to in this area have not just an AI interest, but actually.
We're taking it over. We love it.
Yeah, who's we?
The healthcare.
Okay, yeah.
Some people don't, but we've kind of taken it on.
I
More
thi-
of the industries than others than might have not.
Yeah. It's actually quite surprising. I've been in this. Uh-oh. Oh, great. I lost my internet connection. So that might actually be unfortunate. So you can't actually see the final report because it's a very beautiful thing. But yeah, I have been surprised with the adoption of AI because biopharma particularly is one that's usually pretty anti-technology. Like, hey, if it works, don't touch it. But I think at this point now, people are getting, they're getting very interested in like, hey, this tool is very powerful. And again, I think most people kind of see it as like a thinking partner, not somebody who's going to replace their people, but like somebody who's going to help kind of alleviate a lot of the mundane thinking for them. And also, again, like I said, like a lot of CMC teams or development and manufacturing teams are looking at it from the point of view of like, wow, we have a lot of drugs in our pipeline. We're going to have a lot of product getting pushed through our manufacturing. We need to be more efficient. Because you can't easily hire, like you can't scale up hiring that well because it's a very niche.
And the research, there's so much research and a lot of people are afraid of the data.
Mhm.
So like if you can have an agentic AI really like synthesize that and show us what we can,
I guess my internet connection isn't reliable enough. Just trust me when I say it's a great report. Essentially what you would do is it finishes by producing a draft report that you would find actually at the manufacturing site. So, what happened, what data did it grab, how did it do its root cause analysis, what corrective actions need to be taken, and then a final report, and then you'd have a human look over it.
this is essentially from a very like prompt engineering, a very specific kind of instructions that you give
Mhm.
it.
Yep. Prompt. So it's if you want to know the tech stack behind it, so it's mostly Python for reading. It's picking up where it left off. Python for reading from the SQL tables. So that's like the data ingestion layer. There's a RAG pipeline for the documents, so that I use ChromaDB. There is MCP servers that actually serve up the data ingestion layer, and then basically those MCP servers get called with Claude skills.
I was curious, like, where does like the AI get all the data? Does it get from like certain websites, or does it get from the manufacturer after that?
Yeah, so in this it should be all the data systems that are at the manufacturing site. So in this case, like these data systems live on my computer, and so I just populated it with sample data that I had AI create for me. But in an actual, for my clients, it'd be grabbing data from each of their data systems that are on the plant floor.
So they would give like they would give like the AI access to the data sets.
Mhm.
The AI would go in and they would. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So the key is you do what's called harness engineering where you give the agent tools. So think of a tool as like an understanding of, hey, if you're looking for this kind of data, it's over in this data system, and here's how you go get it. And then once it has enough tools, you just can give it a broad statement like, give me a deviation investigation on this specific deviation. And then it can think through, like, oh, I need to use this tool there, and now this tool, and now this tool.
For the process, will you create like a blockchain for the process, like chain of contacts?
For what?
For the manufacturing process, will you create like a chain of contacts? Or, you know?
A chain of, oh, like a blockchain?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I have a lot of experience in blockchain as well. One way in which blockchain could be useful is for like the audit log. So I actually had an audit trail on this that did like a SHA-256 for each entry into the log. So kind of how Bitcoin, it references the block before it, and so you know that there's no, you could check to see if there's been any tampering with any block that was produced. You could do that with the audit log, but then I ended up breaking it and I just never went back and fixed it, so I don't have anything to show you with that. But yeah, like you could do that in terms of like an audit trail that's tamper resistant.
And you code all this by yourself, or did you use AI to do it?
No, you use AI to write most of the code. I use, yeah. So most of that
in
Python.
our example today, what was the what caused the deviation? What was the report?
Yeah, it was endotoxin was high, and then it goes and actually finds out that there was a pump fault that occurred. So that was one possible root cause. And then there was a second one. So it was a really good deviation because it didn't actually say it was definitely this. It says, here's the two leading candidates, but I don't have access to the information to decide, like, if it's the pump fault that occurred. Oh, you know what it was? They used a new resin. So there was like, in this sample data, it was the manufacturing site switched to a new resin that now is, that was the first batch that it came through. So its point was, hey, it could be this new resin, although future batches didn't have this problem that used the same resin, or it could be this pump fault. And so at that point, then it would be for the human to pick it up and say, hey, we got to really figure this out. Or if we can't, it's often that you can't say, hey, is it one or two? We just have to move forward as if it's both and solve both of them.
So it's pretty safe to say like this stuff is definitely happening in these enterprises, and it'll result in faster time to market, and this is just the analysis side, right? And there's the discovery side, and people.
Yeah. I mean, wait, so if I go back here, you could see I've got a skill for doing a regulatory drafting. So if I was sitting in front of a room full of, reg affairs people, I would show them this skill. I have a manager stand-up, so every morning a manufacturing site will have a manager stand-up where everyone comes together and they talk about what needs to be done that day. So I have a skill that, that requires a lot of everyone bringing a bunch of information. Well, the AI can go and get that information, so then people just need to talk through the things they weren't expecting. Batch release is another so the way to think about it is like, once you set up a system like this, where you connect an agent to all these different data systems, you now basically give your employees the ability to write their own skill to do whatever work package that they want the AI to assist with. The skill is actually really easy. Again, you can have AI write the skill for you, although you need to kind of work with it because it's not going to understand your exact work process. But like the technical barrier at that point is pretty small. And so your employees could be empowered to say like, hey, I want to create this agent that helps me with this specific work package I have.
Who are the main companies that are providing the legacy software to these firms?
Yeah, so there's like LIMS, there's LabVantage is like the main player. You have like this ERP down here is SAP typically. QMS, there's a product called QMOS, and Viva is the other, actually the bigger one. MES is like Delta V, if you're familiar with them. But there's a couple players in each of these, and it's one of those markets where it's like there's two people who do it, and you don't, if you want to keep your job, you don't spec a third person kind of a thing.
And what's the company's name that's creating the AI?
That's creating the AI? So in this example, I'm just using Claude, which is the Anthropic AI. But a lot of this is engineering I did under the hood to settle this up. And so the point is, like, I could go to a manufacturing site and do a lot of, typically it's mostly Python engineering work that then would help them have this capability either in Claude or whatever other AI agent they want to use.
How long did it take for you to make this whole thing?
This took like 2 or 3 weeks, probably, maybe 100 hours. It's a much simpler than I would find in the field because I populated with data myself. So you go in the field and all of a sudden you start finding that people aren't using their legacy system the way you thought they were going to use it, or the legacy system itself is, you have to pay them for an API to access the data. Like you run into those kind of things, but for something I fully control, it was about 100 hours. And I'm sorry that the big wow happens when it actually prints out a report, and you guys didn't get to see it, but
Can we do I don't know if you can figure it, or can we do like a regulator report just so we can see what it looks like?
sure. What do I need? I forget what I need. I haven't done that one in a while.
Anything that,
Let's see if I have to give anything to it. Okay, so this is going to write a specific section of a regulatory document. Yeah, this should probably take less. And actually, if I turn down the, okay, so it asks me what I want to produce. Let's do a stability summary.
access to your personal medical records that you're
Yep.
going to display here.
Yeah, actually, what you guys don't know is I'm actually stealing your PII right now, and that's the reason I give these talks. Let's see if I go over here. Yeah, you can see it's doing a lot within the document library, and now it's going and finding test results. Maybe it'll produce a chart for us as well.
It's on localhost, so it's just hitting your docs that are simulations of MES. Or
Yeah. Yeah. So these four right here are actually SQLite instances. So it kind of mimics like a database structure, or it is a database structure. But then, yeah, for like document library, I have a bunch of PDFs and Word documents that it's accessing. Okay, so it's giving some, hey, it's kind of flagging a few things of,
It reads like a lawyer, right?
yeah. But it's still producing the file, which is good.
So this stuff just all came about in, what, like 12 months?
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of this was, so here you go. If anyone is, I'm not in regulatory affairs, so I don't know if this is of good quality or bad quality. I just gave it an example of what I found on the internet, I think, and so, yeah, so a lot of the principles have been around for 3 or 4 years, I'd say, but it wasn't until like Opus 4.6 and ChatGPT 5.4 that came out that like the underlying LLM was good enough to make reasoned decisions. So like I said, like it goes out, it finds information, and then it thinks about that information and makes a decision what to do next. In previous models, that thinking wasn't good enough, so it would just do crazy things. It was like around Christmas time of last year, so like just 7 months ago, that all of a sudden everyone on X and everyone on LinkedIn was like, holy cow, like this is actually able to do what we've always envisioned. So yeah, it is just like maybe 7 months that that it was ready for this.
Where will be next year?
Yeah. You know, one of the funny things is I've been trying to get Fable 5 to work while I still have access to it, but it constantly is like, it does, I don't know if you've tried.
It reverts back.
Yeah, reverse back to 4.8. So everything I've tried to do agentically, it's like, no, you're going to use 4.8. I don't know why, but.
I told it to use Fable 5. I don't know if that actually helps.
Oh, maybe.
Use Fable 5.
Use Fable 5, make no mistakes, please.
Yeah,
Yeah.
don't make up any data.
Yeah. But yeah, so this is kind of what the future of biofarm manufacturing and development will look like, yeah, I mean, the net result is getting more drugs to people for cheaper, without supply constraints or supply, what do you call it when you lose, when there's no supply. Actually, one of the biggest things, and this is actually particularly true in Maryland, because we're such a gene therapy and cell therapy, a lot of the applications of those technologies are for what's called orphan drugs. So, populations where there's a few hundred people who have the disease. And so from a commercial standpoint, those typically weren't addressable in the past. And now we're seeing that actually we can create. Huh, I'm sorry. What? Oh, right, yeah, because you can only sell it to 200 people or something. But now we're seeing that.
Kind of ignored it because it's not really ignored, but if it's not as common, it's kind of overlooked.
Right.
Because we don't have the treatment.
Right. So you can imagine how costs are really important to make a drug. If a drug wasn't going to be commercially viable before, but you can decrease the cost of it, all of a sudden it becomes a viable product that you can produce and sell. So, cool. Any
Have you looked into the I would say the process of manufacturing, finding the correct proteins and the correct basic chemicals to make the pills? Do you think there's any way that the chain of command of blockchain doing that faster?
I did biopharmaceuticals for 15 years, and then I got into blockchain. No, I don't. I had never. So I really couldn't. I had never thought of. I spent time thinking through how blockchain could be leveraged, other than the example I gave, where you could have audit trails that are tamper resistant. That's probably the biggest use case I've seen so far. A potential use case.
It's because mostly machinery, right?
Yeah. A lot of these are made in bioreactors and fermenters, and then purified in what they call chromatography skids and stuff like that. So it's very physical, as opposed to blockchain, which is obviously more virtual.
So I'm guessing, although it's a specific prompt, and it's when I for example, when I use ChatGPT, and I tell it, don't get any outside sources than what I've given you.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have the information, don't make it up, just say so.
Correct.
So how do you make this honest? How do you?
That's a great answer, or great question. So a couple things. One is you do it at the deterministic level. So essentially all of this data ingestion layer, you want to put as much into that code as possible because you can guarantee the output that comes out. So things like, how do you prevent it from getting data it shouldn't have? You do it at that. You literally, it doesn't have a tool that can give itself confidential data, for example. And then in terms of the example you gave, where it's how do I know it didn't just make up data? Again, that comes at that deterministic spot, combined with an audit trail, right? So you should be able to say, it went out, it looked for, it said, give me all the data on ABC from this specific system, and the system returned back XYZ. Did it then put XYZ in its final report? You should be able to go back. So a human could actually sit and say, it was told it was XYZ, it's XYZ in the report, so I know it didn't hallucinate that information. So that's always going to have to be a check. Is let me just look at what it did, and does that match its final report? Is one way. And then just in the same way you said, like prompt engineering is that's like the weaker way of enforcing things, because a prompt is, sometimes it follows the prompt, but sometimes it does different things. So you tend to try to enforce security and rules and
By limitation.
yeah, like in the Python code, as much as possible, and then let the you know, and lessen the prompt. But the prompt, of course, if you look through it'll say, you know, like don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. You know, there's a list of do nots in this.
Can you explain more what you mean by deterministic stuff?
Yeah. Oh, so deterministic is kind of before AI. Everything we thought of as computers was deterministic. So you have a chunk of code. You run that code. Every single time it's going to do the exact same thing. As long as you give it the same inputs, it'll give you the same outputs.
You know the outcome.
Yep. There's no way for it to do something crazy that you wouldn't expect. As long as you know, again, like as long as you know the inputs. I'm sorry? Predictable, yep. Yes, actually, yeah, that's the best way. Non-deterministic, which is AI, is you could give it the same input, you may get the same output, but you may not. And that's, so that's non-deterministic. There's a point. Oh, the other thing too is I should go through to the skill to see if I did this, but you should also have it reference where it got a piece of information from in the final report.
It's telling you, kind of similar to like when I give, different, but when I give ChatGPT a prompt, it then gives me, this is what I did.
Yep. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Here's a piece of data. I got this piece of data from this system, you know, in this record, and then you can verify, like it forces it to not make up the data, because now it has to hallucinate two things if it wants to hallucinate, but also it's something that a human can then go, okay, let me just do a quick check in the system. Is that the same data? Any other questions? As good as I can. Can be a little more complicated. So.
You said you were going to be doing some consulting. Is it around this with introducing these concepts to labs?
Yeah. So within my consulting practice, I kind of see this as like the carrot. You know, this is like something that gets a meeting. But a lot of what happens underneath this, and we've kind of alluded to it a few times here, is when you go into like a biofarm development group or development, especially manufacturing less so, but the data systems aren't necessarily maintained in the sense that they might call something one thing in one data system and then call something else in a data system. If you want an agentic AI over top of those data systems, it's going to get more confused than a human would get when it's trying to look at those two things. So the service is really more of like, data services underneath. Again, the building out the agentic system is actually, it's not work, but it's kind of the easy part. It's the getting the data systems in a good shape that make it meaningful to build an agentic system on top of this.
What's your consulting company going to be called? Do we know yet?
Kyle Langham Consulting.
Okay.
It's the most creative name.
Nice.
Yeah. So.
I may have missed this, but how long did it take for you to put this together, the agentic AI?
Yeah, about 100 hours.
100 hours.
So what that was building out, basically building the SQLite tables for each of these 4 data systems that you'd find in a manufacturing site. Of course, Claude helped me with making all the PDFs and Word documents.
Claude is awesome.
Yeah, and then, so there's a lot of Python that's under the hood, and then writing out these skills is actually not too hard. You can, Claude has a skill creator skill that will even help walk you through. You just need to know what to ask it. So I spent a little bit of time working with Claude of saying, hey, I want to do this deviation investigation demo. but I want to make it meaningful for these reasons. Let's kind of, and then this is the output. Like I've seen enough deviations in my career to know like what a good output looks like in that context, and so it's like just kind of working through with Claude on building that. So yeah, so probably about 100 hours. Again, the work is not so much building out the system, it's dealing with the complexities when you actually get to a client site and their data systems are, some of their data systems aren't going to be accessible because the vendor has locked it out. Some of the data systems are going to have horrible, data health, like missing data, or again, they maybe they didn't hold themselves to a nomenclature within the data themselves over time and stuff like that.
How are you plan on finding a way around that?
That's where you make the consulting money and the contracting money. You charge them to say you run their data systems through some Python scripts. It prints out a data health score. You walk through like the high priority things, and you say like, look, these are the things we need to do before you're ready for even beginning to do an agentic system on top.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Who's running this room now? Just me since Joy is gone, or are you running